Bem-vindos a mais uma Trends Interview. Desta vez, a Future of Operations 2021 Predictions. Nesta sessão, vamos discutir algumas das 10 previsões que a IDC tem para os próximos anos nesta temática do futuro das operações. O futuro das operações é um elemento fundamental da transformação digital das organizações, é, na verdade, um dos temas do Future Enterprise. Aquelas previsões que nós aqui vamos discutir estão também elas já numa perspectiva de mudança de paradigma em que as operações não representam unicamente uma visão de eficiência interna, mas cada vez mais um posicionamento da organização para esta tal economia de procura. Esta posição de montar as operações da organização em função das reais necessidades do negócio. É por isso que este pilar muitas vezes tem em consideração não só a dinâmica interna, mas sobretudo a importância da conectividade. A conectividade dos produtos, dos serviços, dos processos, dos ativos e até das pessoas. E um dos tópicos que vamos aproveitar para discutir hoje aqui com o nosso convidado é um dos elementos fundamentais também de uma visão integrada das operações, a convergência do IT com o OT. Vamos aproveitar para entender quais é que têm sido os principais impactos deste período de pandemia no futuro das operações, conhecer um pouco das previsões que impactam a dimensão interna da organização e aquelas que estão mais focadas no enquadramento da organização com o seu ecossistema. Mas também iremos entender quais os princípios e os pressupostos que a IDC considera fundamentais para que as vossas organizações possam também elas definir um roadmap para o futuro, para alcançar esta visão do futuro das operações. E não poderíamos falar de futuro das operações sem falar da temática, da importância da integração da segurança nesta dimensão do IT versus OT. Para discutir connosco, I will invite, and I will switch to English, to invite Burian, our Senior Research Director and Leader of Future of Operations European Practice. Welcome to the IDC FutureScape 2021, Jan.
Hello, thank you for having me. Hi, everyone.
Okay, so we'll have an interview about these topics. It's a very important topic, as I mentioned, not only because it's one of the future enterprise topics, but we have been discussing the future of operations as one of the pillars of the digital transformation for so many years. But we cannot start our conversation without mentioning how the impact of COVID-19 also impacted this vision that IDC already had before of the future of operations. What do you think were the main impacts of the COVID in our vision of the future of operations, Jan?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. I'd say, in IDC, we look at the situation from a perspective of, let's say, 5, economic situation areas, starting from the business continuity, then there's cost optimization, business resiliency, target investments, and future enterprise. Meaning that the business continuity, it's about the pure survival, right? And we ask our customers or the end user community from manufacturing environment, power utilities, also the transportation was there, and the and healthcare, and ask them, where do you find yourself on a journey to the next normal, right? And we do these interviews like every month. We call it waves, right? So, and we compare the wave from the August and the wave from December. So, and looking at the very first stage, like business continuity, this is really like these are the companies being really hit really hard by COVID-19 and all the, let's say, everything that's connected to that situation. So we saw in August it was like a 31% of enterprise companies were in this area, while in December it's 26. So it's slight decline, I would say, right? While in the cost optimization phase, which is like an economic slowdown, it's there's like in August it was like a 40%. Now it's 39, but slightly. we're comparing like a 71 to 65%, so that's not a big difference. And I would say that this phase is characterized a lot by just, pure survival, right? So companies, they just would like to survive, so they control the cost very, very hard or very detailed. They focus on the health and safety measures, and of course they try to squeeze some business out of the market, right, to keep the operations running. And that's a big shot. And this is still like almost like a 70% of our respondents, which is
we've been discussing a lot about this concept of flattening the curve. Okay, that is very aligned with what you are saying. That is trying to move forward as fast as we can. You mentioned, and your topic, your favorite topic, is one related with the IT-OT alignment and the importance of convergence of these two topics. How this topic of the IT-OT can help organizations to flatten the curve and move forward?
Yeah, of course, there are, let's say, more angles or more areas which could be then, let's say, affected by that, right? So we can see that in each phase you can use different solutions, meaning that, of course, if you would like to just control your supply chain, for example, so then you use the supply chain control tower, which is characterized by the enterprise IT systems and utilizing the data from a field, right? So that's one of the most significant, most crucial area of usage of IT OT. Or of course it could be in the area of health and safety, these like smart cameras or social distancing in production. But from my perspective, what's even more important is not just to look inside the organization, but also look at the outside the organization to gain the more revenues, right? To keep the business running, because you need the money, you need the cash, because cash is the blood, and you can get a cash, I mean, through selling your services or products, right? So you need to find a way how to, let's say, utilize your products, your services in a way that you really still keep earning the money, right? And this is where IT/OT solutions, IoT solutions could help you, especially when it comes to the servitizations and the services instead of products. This is something you can develop, I mean, in a remote way, right? You don't have to produce anything in a factory. And this is really the way a lot of manufacturing organizations just go, right? So just they move that way because they see that just selling the traditional products that's connected with a lot of physical activities and also with a massive supply chain, while adding some service to that, even like a subscription, makes the organization also even more resilient from a perspective of business continuity.
Okay. So it's very interesting because what you are saying is that we need to understand the operations not from an inside-out perspective, but as much as we can from outside in. It's not just an alignment of areas of departments. It's really changing the way we see these two areas to align them with the needs of the market or the needs of our organization, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So if we look to the predictions that we have in our FutureScape this year, there are some that are actually aligned with that perspective. Let's more say the inside operations and the other ones that are influencing directly the outside, the ecosystem. Let's start first for some that I look in the FutureScape, relate a little bit more with the inside. What do you think are the main topics related with for example, one that I find, because everyone talk about that, the one that related with the smart operations. How is this smart operation changing the way the organizations are moving forward in this vision of the future enterprise?
Yeah, thank you for this question. Very great. The key point here is that, I mean, we identify the 6 main priorities in the organizations, right? So, of course, they might slightly differ from a industry to industry, but generally speaking, these are the real ones, right? The smart operations, as we understand that, so could be shop floor, like in manufacturing organization or factory, but also could be some like a power generation, right? In power and utility, so could be transport of the water for the pipes, right? So that's all operations, and we see that the organizations, what they're focusing on making the operations even more resilient, agile, and efficient. Right. So our prediction, I mean, we created a set of 10 predictions just addressing this like a smart operation priority. And the one I chose for today's discussion was the one saying that 60% of industrial organizations will integrate data from edge OT systems with a cloud-based reporting and analytics, moving from a single asset view to the site-wide operational awareness. Meaning that, I mean, no more silos, right? Sharing the information across the, not just one factory, but across the whole value chain. You can compare data from the other sides, and this is where you need to leverage the cloud, of course, right? Otherwise, you're not able to process the data in the right way and apply some like AI or ML or AI or machine learning powered engine analytics engines.
There's one very interesting prediction. Okay. That is related, let's just jump here, that is, we used to discuss about green IT, right? And green IT, turn off the lights and make sure you are not spending too much money in energy and so on in the past. But now our prediction actually is green business. What is this prediction of the green business, Jan?
I mean, the green business could be looked from many perspectives, many angles. And the angle I like is that, you know, we are shifting from the rule-driven, let's say, green business or green business activities to a business value generator, right? So practically, you generate the organizations should be able to even like generate a business value through being a green, right? So that's very like a fascinating area, and our prediction here says that. That facing increased disruption, the manufacturers will digitally transform and accelerate sustainable innovation to improve supply chain operations from concept commerce, increasing the revenues by quite significantly by 20% in 2025. Meaning that, of course, that's about the recyclability, right? So this is about like generative design, right? So design that you can design something or the product which then you are able to recycle after that, right? Or remanufacture. So that's really like a totally new perspective. It's not just like recyclability itself, right? But it goes really beyond that, and it goes already in a phase of R&D, of research and development, of testing, right? So very fascinating. And of course, that's a one perspective, one angle. The other one is, for example, the carbon footprint, like how to lower, how to reduce the carbon footprint. You know, how to design the supply chain strategy. How to, does it make sense to let's say to offshore or to inshore, right? And the COVID accelerated these thoughts. So even made the people to think more, I would say, deeply about how to turn the being a green into really like the engine of growth.
Okay, I will not say that there's a waste of people, but definitely using the people in the right way, with the right way of working, is also one of our predictions. We have this relationship between the future of operations and the topic, a little bit of the future of work, with this prediction of the new ways of working. What do you think about this prediction? How the future of operations are impacting the working of organizations, helping not to waste the talent and to fit a little bit this gap? How you're seeing this prediction?
Yeah, that's really wonderful area and one of my most favorite, of course, because I mean I'm representing the technology analyst, but from my previous experience, as I was working in a factories, I know that the human element is crucial. And the technology is sort of helping the people to change the way they work. And our prediction says that already in 2021, which is right now, the 1/3 of the G2000 operation employees will work remotely or in a hybrid environment, right? And that means it's not just like a working from home, because everybody's thinking like like new ways of working is like a sitting at the home office, but it's not. This is not the right angle, right? So there are more categories, and I would say one could be like work from anywhere, meaning that of course you can be working from home, but you can be working in one factory for another factory. But to be able to do that, the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure must be present there. And even better would be to have let's say that virtual world connected with a physical one, right? So you're even able not to just write an email or something, or presentation, whatever, but you're able to, on your computer, to move the things, right? To change the production, to change the production, to set up or reset up the production line, right? So that really goes beyond just sitting at the computer at home, right? So that's the thing. And of course, that's just one category. The other is that bridging the skill gap, right? We all talk about the population aging and let's say the lack of digitally capable workforce, right? So that's a big issue in manufacturing. So we see that like even more and more manufacturers, they start to embedding their strategy, that let's say reskilling strategy into their corporate strategy, because they understand that they won't be able to achieve the goals without the right people, right? And that's really something amazing, and technology is here helping again, right? So collaborative platforms, that could be the augmented reality, virtual reality tools, right? So we have the different like a remote guidance tool. So there's like the tech is just blooming here.
Okay. Switching a little bit more to the predictions that I found very interesting regarding a little bit more the outside in, how these future of operations are impacting the external environment. There is one in particular that is connected with one of the technologies that we've been discussing around this future of operations for some years, that is the IoT. And typically you use IoT to connect assets and connect processes. But this year we launched a prediction connecting the IoT with the customer experience. So how is this moving, or how this justify the vision of that we've been discussing, that this is no longer just inside and you can connect IoT with the customer experience and delivering value to customers?
You just made an excellent point here, because of course what we see, I don't want to read a prediction, right? Even just saying very shortly that by 2022 we see that 60% of global 2,000 companies will use customer experience as a top driver for IoT deployments, right? And the thing here is that, I mean, the business becomes a real customer centric, right? So it's changing significantly. The customers, they want to have everything customized right now. You know, I'm not saying the real time, but the customer is really spoiled by a lot of digital services, like in the private life, and he or she would like to have it also in the business life, right? Because B2B turns into B2C anyway, right? So that's where we see the role of technology here. So one angle could be to utilize the IoT as a, let's say, source of information for remote control, remote servicing, so to improving the customer experience through that, right? The customer is satisfied and he's willing to continue the business with the vendor or with the service provider. That might be one thing, right? So another point, you can just imagine like a connected car, right? So it's probably the most common example how you can utilize the IoT, the data from a physical object, right? Turning them into and utilize them in the virtual world, just to make your experience, I mean, as a customer better. I mean, you know, and to make the customer loyal. And this is something like this analogy of the for example the production machines, production assets, right? So they are becoming smart. They are able to generate a lot of data about them. So the machine OEM or production line OEM could get the data and improve the product as it goes, as it's been working at the production of their customer, and there could be some additional services, or it could be like some kind of like a benefit for free that the products are being, let's say, improved, right, during the time, right? So I would say that this area is almost like there's never-ending number of use cases, of opportunities.
Lots of use cases. Let me just pick up a final one also related with this vision of the future of operations, related with the ecosystem. That is, we have a prediction that is basically showing up and making this point that you are not changing your organizations, you are not changing your operations. You are actually positioning your operations in an ecosystem. So the vision of the what we say future operations is wider, is not only related with the enterprise itself. How this relationship with the ecosystems of innovation can promote also the move forward with the future of operations?
Yeah, I mean, again, great question here, or you made a very good point here, right? So, I mean, starting with the prediction itself, it says that by 2022, the industry ecosystems will see a 40% greater innovation rate of a new digital and physical products and services brought to market compared to, let's say, with traditional innovation approaches, right? And I mean, the ecosystem of innovations are one of the, I would say, not underestimated priorities, but I think that, I mean, usually this is something behind, right? Because, of course, if compared to another priorities, which are saving the money, generating the revenues right now, very, I would say, and it's very visible, right? That the ecosystem and the innovation ecosystem, it requires a little bit to be a little bit patient, you know, to be able to orchestrate this, I mean, the relationship. But then the output, it's the impact is huge, right? So there's a huge leverage, of course, because I mean, just imagine, or I would just give you example. I mean, last year that there was a big issue when the COVID struck. Then we saw that the companies were, I mean, rivals or companies which were, they didn't have anything in common until that time. They teamed up, like could be like an aircraft OEM and a car OEM, and plus I don't know, like a medicine devices OEM, and they all team up together, and in a very short period of time they were able to produce almost like a mass production of some medical devices, right? And it was because of the collaboration element, right? So, and they needed some they needed the technology, they needed the platform to be able to communicate, to be able to create, to be able to test, and also to be able to manage the supply chain, because it was typical that one company, they provided their suppliers the whole supply chain, while the other was providing their production capacities, right? And the third, there was maybe like an engineering company, and they all work together. So practically this impacts the cost of I mean, like related to the time to market, right? So also a new services, but it shouldn't be just like a physical products or just a services themselves. Like an ecosystem of innovation could also be like a data sharing or knowledge sharing, but also creating like a marketplaces, right? The dedicated marketplaces, or we talk here about the quote to order platforms for supply chain. So again, so it's almost like a never-ending potential for the use cases. But again, so I would say from my perspective, quite underestimated. But I mean, if you look at the potential, this is something which could help companies to become really, let's say, resilient and agile and flexible.
Let me pick up in that expression of the never-ending. Like we see, the way we see future enterprise is a direction, okay? And future operation is also a direction. You are moving in a direction of future operation. So we have to make very clear, this is not a project, this is not a technology, this is something that the companies, the organizations believe this is the right direction. What are the main principles you would highlight for an organization that wants to believe in the future of operations and first, before starting, want to align some of major principles? What would be those principles?
Yep. So I would say, I mean, let's start from a goal, right? From where we're gonna go. So we would like to have the organizations to be transparent, to be flexible, to be resilient, profitable, of course, right? Sustainable. So, I mean, overall, it's like to be successful, right? To succeed, and that's really where we need to, where we're heading. So, looking at the principles and assumptions to be like that, of course, I mean, you have to have the right technology in place, right? Smart assets, processes that should be there, right? So then, of course, if you have an asset, they should be connected, right? And always on connected, right? That requires also the technology, the connectivity, and when we have assets, we have a connectivity, of course, then there's a data, right? And data should be accessible anytime, anywhere. So we're talking here about the democratization of the data. And while we have a data, I mean, a lot of companies, they generate a lot of data or capturing the data here and there, but what they need is to have like a seamlessly integrated internal value chain, right? To have like an end-to-end seamlessly connected process data flow, right? With a minimal, or I would say, known interference of the human, right? And to be able to work with such an amount of data to exist in such a complex world, then we can leverage the help of artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? And utilize it for the complex calculations, for the complex tasks which are beyond like a human brain, right? And if we are able to use such a technology, right, then we are able to create the predictions based on the real-time simulations of the processes and behaviors during the entire life cycle of the project of the product, right? Or that's a main point, right? So it's not just like a prediction, like a predictive maintenance of the one machine, but it's really like a simulation and prediction of, I mean, what's gonna happen with the product in a third or fifth production step, right? Taking into consideration different parameters and so on, right? So. Okay. But to be able to create such a system, like such a complex, such a seamless, there must be we call it like a next generation proactive security, right? And especially during these days when you have like a convergence of IT and OT, two words, right? With IT being, let's say, more, let's say, secure, and OT being a little bit lagging behind that, right? And these two words, they doesn't work together that much. That's the security is a key element here, right? Without security, probably no one would allow to build such a let's say digital environment.
So Jan, we connect, we search for opportunities, we are looking for new use cases for more process connected, more active assets connected, more people connected, and then the security, the IT-OT security integration shows up, okay? From your research, what are the biggest concerns when it comes to IT-OT security convergence? What are in the top of the mind of the organizations?
Yeah, I mean, let me first tell you that what we see is that we're like a shift from I mean, in terms of security, like from almost like a 7% in 2018 to almost 40% in 2020, right? So the companies were really addressing and really tackling, I would say, the IT-OTs, the security of IT and OTs integrated systems, right? And we see that, I mean, also what's quite visible from our research is that IoT security and OT security, it's been quite I would say on the same level of interest. That's logic, of course, right? Because we talk about the integration, but I mean, the cloud security is also, I mean, I would say one of the top priorities, right? Anyway, and then we talk about the edge and 5G, but the top three is IoT, OT, and cloud, I would say. When it comes to the concerns, right? So the area where a lot of organizations are still struggling is to securing a reliability of the safety of the legacy systems, right? Because we can see that many companies, the enterprises, they grow by acquisitions, and so they of course acquire like a different technologies, different technical standards, and with the global footprint, that's another thing, right? So for them, it's really crucial to understand the risks and to deploy the right tools. Fortunately, from our research and discussions with the vendors, with the IT security, OT security vendors, there is a number of tools, number of approaches, right, solutions, which really are making that, say, the safety very robust, right? So that's that's a good news, right? Maybe I don't want to say that there's a bad news, but of course, as we see that the volume of connected devices is increasing, is growing. That's also the second. So to tackle this like potential threats is a second priority, you know, that comes up came up from our research. Right. So, and the third one was that the management of the number of different industrial protocols, and but again, so that's something which is doable, which could be solved with the right tools, and it shouldn't be used as an excuse for not implementing like any solution. Because from my consulting career, what I saw, like many situations where IT said just, okay, the security risk is too high. We don't want to. We don't want to, or we won't support the deployment of certain use case, while the like competitors, they had pretty much the same infrastructure, and they apply these, let's say, security measures, and they are also able to leverage the value from the use cases which the other organizations just start, right? So I would say it's more an approach in internal procedures than the technical barrier, right?
Okay. So my last question is to position this topic generically of the future of operations, but in particular this topic of the IT-OT conversions. Just to make clear that this is not just joining technologies or joining departments. This is really a way of the organization transform the structure of its organization. So my last question is how these topics of the future of operations and IT-OT conversion are impacting the CXOs, so the executive level of the organizations.
You made also a very relevant point here, because the way how we understand let's say the future organization, future of operations, is that convergence among the technology, people, organization, and the processes. Right. So these are the three key elements which need to work together. And of course, the organization here represented by, let's say, the C-suite, C-level, it's crucial for the whole transformation. And we see IDC sees, or according to our research and discussions with especially with the COO, CDO, CIO, CTOs, these are all, let's say, positions which are handling somehow the transformation from the perspective of projects, of managing the change, and of course, and living it every day, right? And we see that, especially like a COO, right? It's not just like a person who's managing the operation themselves, or looking for the operational, or looking after operational KPIs. That position is also the one who is really driving the change, who's really, because that's probably in most of the organizations I would say that the biggest percentage of the workforce is reporting to COO, right? So COO is really the engine of the transformation as well, and is actively participating on the digital transformation projects. He's also the influencer, I would say, and and there's also the perspective of the digital engineers, which are the, let's say, organizational unit, which is bridging that IT and OT sides together, and this could be typically reporting to COO, right? So while CIO's role is mostly, let's say, IT landscape, IT architecture, security, IT integration focused, or that way. And of course, these two positions, organizations, they work closely together with the CDO, Chief Digital Officer, because that's also the engine of the whole transformation. This person is driving the digital transformation strategy, driving the value from the data, and of course, it takes care of that technology deployment as well.
So we can say this is everyone's business. So more than changing just technology, processes, we also have to challenge the transformation, almost like a digital dream team, right? Involving the Chief Operations Officer, the Chief Digital Officer, the Chief Information Officer, and the Chief Technology Officer. So thank you very much for joining us, Jan. It was a pleasure to receive your insights and talk with you. So thank you very much for participating. We see each other around. Obrigado a todos por terem estado presentes. Muito obrigado pela vossa atenção.